Shabbat Shalom. One of the things that you learn early on as a congregational rabbi is the importance of good boundaries. This is not something that comes naturally to me, but I've gotten somewhat better. And it can just be hard sometimes to maintain good boundaries when so many people in our community of all ages and genders are so good at playing the role of the Jewish mother, asking about my love life, giving advice about my love life, and of course, commenting on my hair. All right. For what it's worth, I also kind of love that. And I often feel like we're part of a big family. But even if cliches of Jewish familial and communal life seem to suggest that there are no boundaries at all between us, as we know, boundaries are important. And Jewish ritual is in fact obsessed with them. This week's Parsha, Shmini, gives us a taste of exactly that. Leviticus 12 describes the main laws of Kashrut, which is a Jewish boundary par excellence, offering a list of all the animals that are fit for us to eat and those which are forbidden. Any animal with cleft hooves that chews their cud is acceptable. Any animal who doesn't is not. Camels and rabbits technically do both things, but they're verboten anyway, which is just as well. And don't get me started on pigs. Kashrut offers a clear boundary between what is pure and impure, signaling that even something as mundane as eating should be hemmed in by certain lines. And if that's true with basic elements of daily life in Judaism, boundaries become important when it comes to our ritual lives, all the more so. Leviticus 9 and 10 focus on the dedication of the sanctuary, with Aaron the high priest making the first offering on the altar. Aaron is punctilious in his very first sacrifice. The text includes 15 verses describing his every motion, articulating clear definitions for how and how not to make an offering to God. After he makes his first offering, a fire of God springs forth, Eish milifnei Adonai, to consume the offering, a symbol that it had been done correctly. But immediately thereafter, Aaron's sons Nadav and Avihu get swept up in the fervor of the moment. They each put fire in their fire pans and offer an alien fire, an Eish Zara, which God had not commanded of them. And in the earlier fire that appeared before their father's offering, then emerged again and consumed them. This fire consumed them and killed them. It's a devastating moment here on this day of celebration in which the sanctuary is finally dedicated. When the high priest offers his first offering on the altar, two of his sons violently lose their lives. They cross a boundary and they face the ultimate punishment. Commentaries abound on exactly what happened with Nadav and Avihu. Some midrashim say that they were drunk that day from too much celebrating. But I prefer the commentaries that suggest the two brothers were drunk with excitement about the future of their people, perhaps, about their role within it as priests. They watched their father make an offering, and they, out of youthful passion and the pent-up excitement of finally doing what they'd been trained to do, went a little overboard. They wanted to let loose, but they went too far. It may be the change of the weather these days or the new world that vaccination is slowly opening up. But I've been feeling a little like Nadav and Avihu lately, at least in those rabbinic interpretations of them. I want to let loose too. I want to re-enter in-person Jewish community now, especially when it seems right in front of me. I want to do all the things that I was trained to do. And God help me, after a year and change of all this being at home, I'm about ready to start some weird fires as well. And my guess is you may be feeling some of that too. I'm not here tonight to tell you what's safe or unsafe during this confusing time of vaccinations paired with a citywide spike in COVID cases. The CDC is clear on what our boundaries should be, and we all must pay heed to those. But even as we do that, re-engaging with some things in person, small seders, perhaps as we did last week or the week before, indoor dinners or other things that feel safe with fully vaccinated groups, it's important to remember that it's important to remember what we learned about ourselves and our own individual boundaries, lessons that became clearer during this pandemic. In the past week, I've had a lot of meetings in person, way more than I have really at all for the past year. I'm fully vaccinated, and so were they, and we were outdoors and wearing masks anyhow. But while the experience was somehow thrilling, it was also exhausting, disorienting, and weird to have grown accustomed to a certain kind of life in front of a screen, but then inject a taste of the world as it was back into my routine. It's what needs to happen as we eventually get normal life back here in the next year, hopefully. But as we return to in-person things here and there, we can't move too quickly because of the health risks, of course, and also because we're breaking boundaries we set for ourselves for over a year, some of which may have served us. It's the dirty secret of coronavirus that many of us actually benefited from staying at home, from thinning out our social calendars, from not worrying so much about our appearances, and from focusing on which relationships in our lives are most essential. And if we didn't ask for a global pandemic that took so many people's lives and disrupted everyone's, at the very least, we can learn from it. Last March, we thought anew about the categories of clean and unclean, safe and unsafe. We've had to make boundaries between what we do and what we don't, and with whom we do what we do. In some cases, we've also broken old boundaries that we had, peering into people's living rooms and sometimes even seeing them less than fully clothed on Zoom. Our boundaries have certainly shifted. And as we grow to create a new vaccinated springtime set of boundaries, we can't lose sight of all we've come to understand already about ourselves, because if we do, we might get burned. After the trauma of Nadav and Abihu's deaths, Aaron was famously silent. And there's not much empathy in the episode. Moses says, "I told you so," and tells Aaron's other sons to be extra careful with their own boundaries, lest they too perish. And then God charges Aaron with the following: "You must distinguish between the sacred and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean. And you must teach the Israelites all of the laws." If it weren't obvious before, here God states it directly. The pathway to holiness is bound on either side with guardrails. They can be crossed a little bit from time to time, but boundaries are themselves essential. As we integrate the boundaries to which we've grown accustomed within a new world, one that doesn't require physical distancing the way that this past year has, we need to take time to understand the limits that make us feel safe and secure in ways that we didn't even realize we needed before the pandemic began. May we move slowly through this time. May we continue to wear our masks and be patient with those who have not yet received the vaccine. May we all tread lightly when offering hair advice to our rabbis. And may we continue to find sanctity in the separations that we've discovered this year. May we continue to protect our internal lives as we navigate the world that comes next. Shabbat Shalom.